This thing puts every electric SUV on the market to shame. People complain that all new cars look the same these days, and given the fact that we buy more black, grey and white cars than ever before, and the fact that most of those are SUVs, well, maybe they've got a point. But some manufacturers want to go their own way with unique body styles, different shapes and designs, and, well, two-tone paint. This is the Volkswagen ID Buzz, and it's all those things and much, much more.
VW has teased the idea of a modern-day take on the Type 2 microbus for over a decade, but now it's finally here. A 5-seat MPV for the electric age, it's already offered as a cargo van, and there are long wheelbase and spicy GTX models on the way. It might not be a grey SUV, but Volkswagen reckons that won't matter one bit.
How can we not have a quick squiz around the outside? It looks like nothing else on the road, and this coming from someone who's got a little Lego model of the original sat in his kitchen, I think it looks fantastic. You've got this big VW badge, the two-tone paintwork. Okay, you don't sit over the front wheels like you did in the original, and there's no split screen down here, but the wheels, they're pushed right out into the corners, and the wheelbase is huge, which means it's a pretty practical car on the inside. See? And I just love this driving position as well. If you want a commanding view of the road, forget electric SUVs. This is the one, and these armrests are great too. It quite rightly reminds me of driving a van, and yet you've got all this glass around you and all this tech up here. Okay, granted, this is not a Volkswagen strong point. It's basically been lifted almost untouched from the Volkswagen ID 3 and 4. It's 10 inches as standard, or 12 inches if you go for the infotainment package plus. But while it all looks nice and bright, it's not very responsive, it's a little bit laggy, it's really buggy at times. But worse still are these touch sliders down here for the climate controls. They should have been vetoed from the start. Not only are they difficult to use on the move, they aren't backlit at night, which is so infuriating. But otherwise, the cabin feels quite thoughtfully designed, and actually, given the fact that so many of the materials are recycled, it feels plusher in here than you might expect. There's a digital instrument cluster behind the steering wheel. It's not very big, but it shows you all the information you need. And the gear selector, well, that's an adaptation of what you get in the ID3. It's just really easy to use. You twist it up for drive and back for reverse. Again, yeah, as I say, really easy to use. But the best thing, I think, is that you don't have to turn this thing on. You just get in the driver's seat, twist the gear lever, and you're off. You get the same general vibe and layout in the cargo panel van, with a few cheaper materials here and there, as you might expect for a commercial vehicle. But in the passenger vehicle, like we've got here, you do get all black everything on the entry-level model. The second of the two trims, like we have, you get this two-tone interior with the white steering wheel and the light-coloured seats. Now, I'm not convinced how practical that is for a family vehicle. This one's done less than 2,000 miles, and already the seats are starting to go blue on the edges. Storage though, that is a Buzz strong point. There are a few cup holders down here, there's loads of little cubbies, and there's a few little cool quirks as well. You can, this one hasn't got it, you can get a plug underneath the passenger seat. There's a USB port in the passenger door, that's one of 7 dotted around this car. And then there's this Buzz box in the middle here, which actually is removable. If I push this down here, I can just lift it straight out and climb into the back. And the good news continues. Loads of legroom. Headroom's great because the roofline stays so high, which actually also means that there's going to be loads of headroom in the rearmost row in the forthcoming 7-seater. And if you just take a quick look over my shoulder, padded armrests, so it's going to be comfortable too. Can you imagine turning these seats around facing back and also having the row back there? You've got an all new kind of minibus and airport shuttle. That would be pretty cool. One thing to note is that instead of 3 individual seats back here, is you've got 2 and 1 split in a 60-40 formation. So if you're moving things around, you can't actually do things individually like you might in some more practical MPVs. You've only got Isofix as well on the 2 outer chairs, which, this is a family car. It should be better than that, and there's none on the front seat either. We don't yet have any information as to whether or not there'll be Isofix in the 3rd row on the 7-seat version, so we're going to have to wait and C. In terms of other family-friendly touches, you've got some pockets here on the back of the seats, one up here and another one down here, as well as some tables. Don't feel particularly sturdy, but it should be good to have the kids doing some drawing or whatever. One annoyance though is that these side windows, despite the fact that they are huge, don't go down. And then, would you look at this? It really does put the question mark over the demise of the MPV. Was it really just a fashion contest? Is that all it was? This thing puts every electric SUV on the market to shame, and that's before you consider the longer version, the 7-seat model. Here you've got 1,121 litres, and that's before you put the seats down. All in, you've got over 2,000 litres of boot space. Okay, it's not perfect. With this floor in place, you've got a nice space under there for storing the charging cables, and you can shove small soft bags under there, but it does make lifting suitcases or heavy items a little bit tricky. You kind of have to hoik things up into there. You can remove this, of course, and if you do, then the load lip is much lower.
But that kind of give with one hand, take away with the other theme continues. Again, if you've got this floor in here, the seats almost fold completely flat. Take it out, there's a gigantic step at the seat bases.
Sorry, I know I'm rambling, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that while it is bigger than one of those big premium electric SUVs, the space on offer, and if you actually want to use it, is perhaps not that easy to access. But I guess it's a bit like having all that off-road tech on your brand new Range Rover. You may never use it, but it's nice to know that it's there.
As mentioned, there are two specs at the moment, the entry-level Life and the higher spec style that we've got here. In terms of list price alone, about £5,000 separates the two, with this version retailing for over £60,000. But wait, you'd easily pay that for a Mercedes EQC, an Audi Q8 e-tron, or even a BMW iX3. All ID buzzes get LED lights, alloy wheels, heated front seats, and all the screens and infotainment functions that we've already mentioned, plus Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Style adds matrix LED lights which can switch on individual bulbs for a clearer view at night, plus a power tailgate and bigger wheels. Though these in our test car are an additional 500 odd quid, while the two-tone paint, well, that'll cost you an eye-watering £1,800. We've seen some in a single colourway though, and they look great. Our advice would be to go for one of those, although advance warning, even some of those are the best part of £1,000.
Now, the majority of van-based MPVs struggle to disguise their commercial vehicle origins out on the road. We could talk about cars like the Peugeot Rifter at this point, but the Buzz was always designed to be a passenger vehicle built on specific electric vehicle architecture, so it feels much more car-like than you might expect. The low centre of gravity created by that low battery placement means that there is actually, for a car that's so tall, very little in the way of body roll, and the fact that it's rear-wheel drive as well means the ID Buzz, dare I say it, feels a little bit sporty. One thing it isn't though is quick. 0-62 takes over 10 seconds, and officially it won't even hit 100 miles an hour. You still get that pickup, that surge when you put your foot down, but it's never going to set the seat of your pants on fire. But it's still plenty quick enough in daily driving, and in all honesty, most people buying this type of car are going to put greater importance and greater emphasis on how comfortable and how refined this car is. We'd prefer it if the regenerative brakes were a little bit stronger, but in all honesty, there's not much to complain about when it comes to driving the ID Buzz.
Being electric only, interested buyers will need to consider range and charging. Officially, the ID Buzz will do between 255 and 258 miles depending on spec, thanks to a 77 kWh battery, but realistically that's going to be nearer to 200 miles in cooler weather, perhaps 230 in the spring and summer. Thankfully, with 170 kilowatt charging, it will top up really quickly at a public rapid charger and overnight if you're using a 7 kilowatt wall box at home.
What's more concerning though is that we still haven't tried this car full to the brim with people and luggage. Oh, hi guys. Well, the good news is that even 4-up with a load of camera gear, the Buzz doesn't feel that different to drive. It still handles really nicely, you've still got enough performance, so really, if you are carrying a full load of passengers and all the luggage on a regular basis, you're not really going to notice the difference. Right guys, out you get. It's easy to dismiss the upcoming GTX model as a bit, well, off topic, but it doesn't half make you wonder what a Buzz might be like with a bit more poke.
Right, it's that time in the video where we look at some of the Volkswagen ID Buzz's deal makers and deal breakers. Ultimately, the Buzz will sell on looks alone, but there's so much more to it than that. It's no longer the many family SUVs, but it doesn't half show it a thing or two when it comes to functioning as a family car should. It isn't perfect, 3 ISOFIX points across the back and seats that fold into the floor would be nice, but hey, that 2,000 litre boot more than makes up for it. And somewhat surprisingly, it's good to drive too. The batteries are mounted low, so it's much more fun than you might imagine. But that infotainment system, quite frankly, should never have been signed off in the first place. Rivals do it better and then some. At least you get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It's not the most aerodynamic thing on the market either, and we reckon you might struggle to get more than 200 miles from a charge in the winter months. Our final deal breaker is performance. As EVs go, this isn't a quick one, but maybe that shouldn't matter, and if it does, there's a hot GTX version on the way.
Well, there you have it, the Volkswagen ID Buzz. We have sat patiently waiting for such a long time, but was it worth the wait? Well, I can think of a few ways, a few easy tricks to make a good car a great one, but ultimately it is an infinitely useful, seriously versatile and painfully cool family car that, and I don't say this lightly, every electric premium SUV buyer should be looking very, very closely at indeed.
If you like this video, then why not watch our review of the BMW iX3 or our family cars playlist. Thanks for watching.